Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Hello everyone, welcome again to English Champion. On this episode, I'm going to tackle a topic I've been thinking about for quite a while. I've been a little hesitant to do it because it is definitely going to bother some people, especially anyone in a younger audience. And that is about language we use today. Slangs, idioms, just casual language that gets thrown around a lot by Gen Z and millennials and that are really causing havoc for the rest of us who are a little bit older. This is going to sound like an old man rant a little bit today, but I promise there's a reason for it. So just stick with me and I'm going to explain as we go. Now, language is one of those things. As someone who studies words and spends my entire professional life talking about language and how we communicate and seeing words in print or hearing them out loud, the language is very important to me, and I'm constantly trying to get young people, my students, to be more effective communicators by being more clear, by providing useful information to their audience, again, either in spoken or written form, and basically, hopefully, creating better relationships with people because we now understand each other better. Because if we're using different languages, I know this is going to sound like a hegemonic Western, colonial perspective, I guess, as people would say now. But it kind of matters that we all speak at least somewhat similar languages, whether that's different national languages or even dialectical languages where we speak with, different kind of colloquialisms. The more of those differences we have, the harder it is for us to get along with each other. And so I'm going to just offer a few words today that hopefully will at least get young people to think a second longer before using them, because those of us who are a little bit older get really annoyed by it. So I want to help you, if you're a younger listener, to not be made fun of right when you say something and then walk away and us old people mock you when you leave because you're saying something ridiculous. We want you to be respected. We want you to get things accomplished. We want you to be successful. And part of doing that is using better words. All right. So I've got a bit of a list here that I want to walk through. And what I've done is I've sort of organized them because as I have gathered just this short list of slangs and idiomatic expressions over the years, or not over the years, just over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of decided that they all sort of fit into certain categories because I get annoyed by each of them in slightly different ways. And so I'm going to break those down according to the ways that they bother me and other people who are old like me. All right. The first one, words that are just completely vague, that no one actually knows what they mean. All right. Including perhaps you. You think you know what you mean. And maybe those very, very close to you know what you mean, but any general audience has no clue what you're talking about, usually speaking, okay? So a word that is really vague is when I see on Twitter or Instagram or wherever people post things, and it just says, there's an image and it just says mood. What mood? We don't know what mood you're talking about. You can't just say mood and expect everyone to know what it is, especially when if there was any consistency among the posts, that might sort of make sense because we would all kind of agree what the mood is, but it's not. I've seen people post very happy pictures, very sad pictures, angry pictures, frustrated pictures, confused pictures. It doesn't matter. And it'll just have the caption mood. I don't know what that means. I know you're in some mood by your expression or whatever the image is. I can try to guess what the mood is, but you saying mood doesn't help me. I don't know what we're supposed to get out of that. So again, very vague word that could mean anything, and you're just saying mood. It's confusing. Don't do it. You look dumb. All right. Another word that's sort of like that happens on posts, especially with visuals, sometimes with text, is people just say this and put an exclamation point, or they're pointing or something. This. Yeah, it's this. I can see what it is. What are you saying about it? What is this? I'm guessing you agree with it or you think it's really important or valuable in some way. But you just saying this and pointing to it, I don't know what that is. So explain what your this is. If you like it, tell us why. Explain yourself. Don't just say this. A word that I just started hearing, it's probably been around a while. I don't always catch everything, but I really noticed it recently with a new Taco Bell commercial where the person in the commercial says that something hits. It's like, hits what? Hits who? What hits? How does it hit? I don't know what that means. Again, and because I've heard this in a variety of contexts, so it's very difficult to tell what exactly you mean. I know it sort of means that it affects you, but how is it affecting you? Just saying that it hits, I don't know what that is. So be clearer, be more specific. One that I just absolutely despise that we have to stop using in such a excessive way is the word vibes or vibing. Again, I know you're trying to describe some sort of feeling. When it's in a dating context, it's there's a connection that you're vibing. But you young people use it so much and for so many different situations. And again, it's kind of like mood. You just say vibe, and we're all supposed to know what vibe that is. What does that mean? What feelings are we getting from it? We have no idea. And so the word vibe has kind of become a catch-all for everything that elicits some sort of feeling or reaction. It's just vibes. It's like, well, what are the vibes? Be more descriptive. Tell us what you mean so that we understand you. There's, again, these vague terms. You're just using things to demonstrate some abstract feeling that you can't quite put your finger on it. And I get that that is probably frustrating, but come up with a word for it then. And you can't just apply it to every situation. That's what's happening with these words, is you're just using them all the time. And there's no clarity on when or how they should be used and why they should be used. So vibes or vibing is another one. One that I came across a couple years ago, I haven't heard it in a while, so maybe it's fading out, which would be nice, except then I was watching television the other night and I just heard it from someone, so it's still around. The saying, some type of way. Now, I started hearing students say that a couple years ago, and I looked into it, and I guess it's from a song or some language referring to relationships, like you're getting me feeling a certain way. But again, people use this in all sorts of different contexts. The situation I just heard it in was someone was really angry, and they said it. I had a student once who was really upset with me. There was a rule. He was breaking a rule in my class, and I called him on it and penalized him or whatever I did. And he was getting really mad, and he said, "Man, Professor, you're making me feel some type of way right now." And I just said, "I don't know what that means." And I kind of just walked away. And the situation actually sort of simmered down because he realized he didn't want to go to the effort of explaining his actual emotions. And so he just sort of dropped it. So it's like the whole point of you getting mad and telling me how frustrated you were kind of fizzled out because you didn't have the proper words to use to explain yourself. He just said, I feel some type of way. I said, well, what way? I don't know what you're talking about. So I guess this conversation is done. And it was. So if you feel something, if you want to react in some way, say it, but saying some type or this or mood, we don't know what that means. So be more specific. Something I only recently heard about, maybe this has been around a while, but I only just saw it. I saw it on a Twitter post, actually. I was like, what does this mean? And it was on a feed where someone had reposted something funny. And then the guy writing in the caption just said, this dude is sending me right now. And I was like, what is sending me? I don't know what that means. And it turns out, I guess it means it's making you laugh a lot, I suppose. So this one's tricky because I know that, like all language, we already have some terms that are a bit weird. So in this situation where something's really funny, comedians for a long time have said that if a comedian is doing really well in front of an audience, they're killing. So, that's a word that doesn't literally mean what the word is. And yet it's kind of gotten adopted and we know what that means, even though really only comedians use it. Also with something that's funny, a kind of a metaphor is if something's really funny, you might say, well, it cracks me up. That's an old phrase. It cracks me up. Crack doesn't have anything to do with something being funny. I guess maybe it came about perhaps because, if you're trying to be really stoic and serious and, not respond to things, and then someone makes you laugh, it's calling it, especially in acting and sketches and in comedy performance, it's called that you crack because you couldn't hold your serious face. So maybe that's where it came from. But again, these have been around a while, and so they kind of have some staying power. Saying that, oh, he's sending me right now. Sending you what? Sending you where? I don't know what that means. Again, I had to Google it because you're too confusing. So just be aware of these phrases that are so big and broad and vague that you're just popping them into any situation, and people really don't know what you're talking about. Last one in this category for vague terms is I've noticed in recent years that everything is called game. Again, there's game in how well you talk to people of the opposite sex, like how well you flirt is called game. But then everything is also game. Oh, his sneaker game. I hear women talk all the time about, oh, her eyebrow game. Like, what? Why are you talking about eyebrows? First of all, no guy cares about your eyebrows. That's just a fact. Stop worrying about your eyebrows, ladies, okay? No one cares. But then calling it a game or saying someone, oh, they're the best in the game right now. What game? I don't know what you're talking about. So again, that was something that sort of you could apply in certain situations, and now it's exploded to meaning everything in every situation. And most of us are going, what game are you talking about? We don't know. Game is often used in a phrase that goes along with it, with on point. Again, stop saying this all the time. Not everything is on point. And just because you like something, we don't know what on point means. If you like something, say you like it. If it's cool, say it's cool. If it's getting you excited, say you're excited about it. But just stop using these vague words that no one really understands except you and your tiny little group of friends. Everyone else is left confused, so don't do it. All right, so those are a set that I just called vague language. Another grouping here is words we already have. So stop inventing new words, all right? Even if the words we already have are already kind of slangy, stop with constantly revising these words. We already have them. Just say what they are, all right? One of the worst ones is people saying fire. It was lit. That seems to have faded away, and now everything is fire. Any variations on those? Okay, it's great. You like it. And we've had these words for a while: cool, hot. All of them mean the same thing. That something's really valuable and important, and you like it a lot. It's fire. It makes you sound really, really stupid. Stop saying things are fire. It's automatic. People look at you, go, "Oh, you're a dummy when you say fire." Stop doing it. All right. Again, we already have words. If it's great, call it great. We got it. Low key. I still hear this one from young people all the time. I guess maybe that replaced DL, down low. Again, I don't know why it's low key, because you're telling me. So it's not a secret. You're saying out loud what the thing is. So it's no longer low key. It's not a secret if you're telling everyone. So I don't understand what that means. And again, we already have a word for it. If it's something you kind of think or feel in secret, just say it's secret. We get it. Okay. It's something you don't want to share. You kind of keep it quiet and whisper it. Fine. We understand what that means. But low key, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why we say that. The word drop, this has become so prevalent that now I think even regular, normal adults are using this, saying that a new movie drops this Friday, a new song dropped yesterday, whatever. I get it. You mean released. You mean it came out. Something was published or it premiered. Again, we already have all these words for it. Saying something dropped. I actually read a paper from a student once when the word drop was starting to catch on a little bit. And he said, the author dropped the book last week. And I literally had to read that 3 times. And I was like, what do you mean he dropped the book? Like he dropped it on the floor? He dropped it on his foot? What do you mean he dropped his book? And that was he dropped his book last week. And I had to go, oh, this kid means dropped as in the book came out last week. Okay, got it. So it slowed me down as a reader, which you never want. As a writer, as an author, anyone communicating, you never want your reader to have to slow down and go, wait, what did he say about that? What word is that? It's confusing and people get really mad about it. So here's a slang word that this student thought was part of the normal vernacular. And it really isn't for most of us. So the word drop, I get it. It's being used enough. We know what it means, but it's so casual and so slangy that it just doesn't make you look good. So stop saying drop. Other words that are really bad: slay, crush. Crush is a little more okay, but saying that something slays, like, okay, it's good. We got it. You don't need to say slay. We don't know what that means. So use a different word that we already know. The word flex, everything's a flex now. Again, we have a word for it. It's called bragging. When you're bragging or you're showing off, we got it. Just use that word. You don't need to say flex. Keep it simple. We know what that word is. Dragging, that's a word that is all over the online world. And again, we already have the word. It's called mocking. Dragging is a little tricky to understand because when I read people who have written it or when they say it, I understand you're saying people are making fun of them. But why you're saying dragging, I don't quite know. At first, when I started hearing it, I thought, is it like dragging through the mud? Because dragging through the mud is something slightly different. You might drag someone through the mud who doesn't deserve it. You might be trying to harm their reputation or something like that. That's very different than someone saying something dumb on Twitter and then getting dragged for it. Like that person deserves. They said something stupid. They deserve to be made fun of, and that's fine. But like the dragging, again, we already have the word for it. They're mocking or they're making fun of them. Dragging, again, it's just another level of confusion that we already have a word for it. Just say the other word. People now are saying the word mid a lot. Again, we already have the word average. That one at least is close to the normal word of average. So I'm not as bothered by that one because at least it has a meaning to it. But that one's become more popular, became very popular when someone online had posted that they thought Margot Robbie, the actress, was mid, which is maybe one of the dumber things anyone's ever said on the internet. But again, just say the word average. We already have the word for it. This one has recently come out, I think, in the last year, and I'm already sick of it. Please stop saying it. Saying that you have receipts. You're just saying, I'll remember this in the future. Or I remember what you said in the past, and I'm going to bring it up again. Okay, yeah, we know what that means. Saying I have receipts, you think you're being clever, and it's really sort of silly. And I think that one's going to fade pretty quickly because it's just so dumb. So stop saying it. I have one here that I actually had to look up because I didn't know specifically. Let me find it real quick. Okay, so this is dabbing and dap. All right. I didn't know which one it was. I think that word is really stupid. It's been around for several years now. When two dudes greet each other and they dap, it's like, I didn't know what it was. Is this dap or is it dab? Because I think I've heard both. So I had to Google it. And I came onto a Reddit thread, which was pretty funny, where people are talking about it. And then here was the problem. Okay, this encompasses all of these arguments that I'm making. Someone said, just say dapping. I know it seems weird at first, but it'll sound even weirder and clunkier if you try to describe it. It's not a handshake. It's not a fist bump. Their hands aren't embracing with familiarity. It's a dap. We're like, okay. So what is it? If it's not a handshake, if it's not a fist bump, if it's not a hug, what is it? This person says, it's a very specific gesture with a specific word. Well, what's the gesture? You haven't told us. If you go into detail, it'll ruin the flow. If you describe it as something else, it's a completely different gesture. Just say he dapped his outstretched hands or something, plain and simple. So this is the epitome of the internet the world of online that we live in. Someone has a word, dapping, I guess. And we all go, well, what is that? And that person goes, I don't know. It's something specific though. Okay, what specifically is it? Oh, I don't know. Like, this makes absolutely no sense. So if you're going to invent a word, please, we can always use more words for clarifying our world, but it has to mean something. So say what it is so that we know how to use it from now on. This person, their explanation for trying to define a word is literally, it's a specific thing. And we all go, what is it? And they go, I can't describe it. Well, then why are you using it? Don't use words you don't know what it means. Basic rule. All right. So again, those are words that we already sort of have language for. Again, it's like we have fist bump, we have handshake, we have hug, we have whatever. Why are we saying dap? I don't get it. So that's another category. Words we already have. Here's another category. These are just words and phrases that absolutely make no sense. Again, the word mid makes sense because it already kind of sounds like the word we have. And so at least I understand why that word came about. These make no sense to me. The worst one I've ever heard, which I've heard for a couple years now, I haven't heard it in a little while, so maybe thankfully it's going away, is giving someone their flowers. This might be the dumbest phrase I've ever heard come out of Gen Z. It's so clunky and silly and makes no sense. Anyone reading that goes, what are you talking about? Flowers? I had to Google that and find out what it meant. And it means just like giving someone credit or congratulating them or saying they did something right. Okay, got it. Say what that is. Congratulate them. Say they did something well. Give someone their flowers. That's so dumb. Please, all young people, stop using it. Another one that, again, makes no sense. The word drip, referring to clothing or jewelry or anything that's kind of flashy fashion. I don't know why that word came about. It doesn't mean anything. I was trying to compare it to other words like, the word bling is a slangy word that's been around a while now. And that word actually kind of works because it has kind of an onomatopoetic quality to it almost, where you're describing someone's outfit or their jewelry as being shiny or a bit gaudy or flashy. And it adds this extra bling, like shine, like glitter to it. So even though that's a slang, I actually am okay with that slang word. The word drip has no usefulness at all when describing something. If someone is wearing nice clothes, just say they're wearing nice clothes. You say they look nice. I don't know why we would use the word drip. It doesn't have any affiliation with what you mean. Similarly, another word that doesn't make any sense, slaps. Again, if it's good, say it's good. Saying it slaps is weird. From my generation, something would be like, oh, that rocks. Well, that was kind of rooted in a song that sounded cool and it rocked. It had a rock sound to it. But then we applied it to other things and, then you can say anything rocks. So I understand where this idea comes from, but where does slaps come from? At least rocks comes out of something that has a musical quality to it. I don't know what slaps means. Stop saying it. This one drives me crazy. I haven't heard it as much as of late, so maybe it's starting to fade away, which is good. Saying things that haven't happened in a long time and saying it's been a minute. That one annoys me to no end because the word minute already has a very clear definition. So I'll hear someone, they'll see someone at their reunion. It's like, it's been 10 years and they go, yeah, man, it's been a minute. No, it's been 10 years. It hasn't been a minute. It's been 10 years. Or if you just want to use a vague word, you can say it's been a long time. It's been a while. Those words already mean an unspecified amount of lengthy time. You saying it's been a minute for something that's been longer than a few minutes, you can get away with saying, I'll be back in a minute and really mean 10 minutes. You don't mean 10 years. Okay. So when people say it's been a minute and it's been longer than 10 minutes, you need to make fun of them because that phrase is really stupid. Again, we already have words for it, and this phrase makes no sense. Do not say for any length of time, it's been a minute, unless it's literally been 60 seconds. And then you can say it's been a minute. That would be great. I recently was hearing someone being in her bag or in his bag. I didn't know what that meant. Apparently it means maybe going crazy. I don't know what that means as far as how the word bag got correlated to craziness. Again, when you say that, you're just confusing people. I've heard the shortcut of someone getting paid like they're getting a bag, I guess. That's another bag variation, which if they're getting paid, just say they're getting paid. If they're getting a lot of money, say they're getting a lot of money. Again, we already have phrases for this that make total sense to everyone. Slang isn't useful in this situation. Another one that makes no sense that drives me crazy is when people say no cap. Again, I heard students saying it, and I was like, what are you talking about? I had a discussion just this past week with a student. We were talking about how images have really kind of become a preferred form of communication instead of words now. When people text, they might just text emojis. They might just text a GIF. They might just text a YouTube clip. They'll have conversations without any words being spoken. And so we were having a dialogue in class about how effective this is, and does this work, and what are its strengths and weaknesses. And a student was trying to make a point that he still valued language. And so he's like, I don't like doing that. I don't think emojis and just texting images back and forth to your friends is really useful. It gets too confusing. I have a hard time understanding what they mean. And in the middle of him explaining that, he said, no, it's just too confusing. No cap, And I said, what's no cap? And he immediately caught himself and realized, oh, he was trying to defend words by using words that don't make any sense. Now, because I've heard it a while, I did know what it meant, but I put him on the spot. I was like, why are you using a word that people are confused by? So communication is difficult enough, whether it's in pictures, whether it's in words. Let's stop using words that no one understands or that only a few people understand. You want to be able to communicate with as many people as possible. And again, no cap is just something that, I know you mean no lie. I'm telling the truth. Just say no lie, or say I'm being truthful here. It's simple. These are miscellaneous ones. I couldn't figure out a category to put this in, but I've started hearing the phrase "my guy" all the time. I was ordering food at a fast food restaurant. I went to the counter and the person said, "What can I get you, my guy?" Who are you talking to? I'm not your guy. I don't know you. Why are you saying my guy? And now I hear it everywhere and read it online all the time. Everyone's my guy. And I don't quite know why we're doing that. So again, that's one of those that you sound sort of silly. So let's please stop doing that. The never ending nature of bro and bruh. Please just stop. Not everyone's your bro. No one should be your bruh, because that sounds stupid. So just talk to people like normal. All right. Another miscellaneous one. This is definitely a Gen Z thing. I never heard it until Gen Z came along, which is catching feelings or in my feels. Jean Twenge, the person I write about a lot on here on Substack, she describes it in her book as, it sounds like you are trying to avoid a disease. Like if you like someone and you describe it as, oh, I think I'm catching feelings. Like, are you getting sick? Why are you saying it that way? Or being in my feels, like it's some foreign territory that you don't know about. Just say you like someone. Just say you have a strong attraction to them. Say something that we already know. Catching feelings is a really silly description. This is one that I have seen emerge a lot of times in kind of techie environments, but it's moved all the way to other contexts as well. When people say, let's double click on that. Oh man, when I'm watching a YouTube video and someone's doing an interview and the interviewer goes, let's double click on that for a minute, I immediately want to stop watching, because that expression is so dumb. Just say you want to focus on it, or you want to explore that idea further. Again, we already have language for it. You saying double click makes it sound like you're trying to sound hip and cool by just saying something we already have words for. Just use the words. It's easy. Stop saying double click. This one isn't a Gen Z. This one has been around a long time, but this is one thing everyone does, saying unpack. I really hate that. Let's unpack that, please. No, stop saying it. This is one that is has evolved over time. I heard an older person say this a couple years ago, and I didn't know what it was. The phrase out of pocket. Now, in previous generations, that meant you were unavailable. I've been alive a while, and I'd never in my 45 years of life ever heard anyone say that phrase before until this person said it. And I thought, why are you saying that? No one's ever said that. Just say you're unavailable. I'm away from my computer. I'm out of town. Say one of those. Saying I'm out of pocket for the next few days is stupid. But then I started hearing it recently, and it has an entirely different connotation. I guess means maybe something like you've gone overboard, or you've taken something too far that now you're out of pocket. Again, so here's a phrase that was kind of silly to begin with, and now it's evolved into another version of it that's Also not very useful. Just say what you mean. Another miscellaneous one, this could go in the vague category, I guess, but back in the day, I don't know when that was. The problem with saying back in the day is I hear it literally used by young people to mean 2 months ago and 20 years ago and 100 years ago. Everything for young people is, quote, back in the day. Like, we have to be more specific. I'm talking with students about maybe something related to history, and they'll say something, or they'll be asking about things and when they emerged, and they don't know the difference between, the moon landing in 1969 and Y2K in 1999. To them, all of it is back in the day. Like, it's all just one hazy past. There is no specified timeline of history. When you say back in the day, it makes you look like you don't have any idea when things happened. So be more specific. Don't just say things from the past are back in the day. Again, it makes you look not very intelligent. Another one with day in it is everyone saying at the end of the day. Just say ultimately or finally. We know what you mean. You don't need to say at the end of the day. LeBron James is the worst person in the world all time to do. You cannot go an interview without him saying at the end of the day at least 5 times. I don't know how that became a tick for him and for so many other people that when they answer a question and they start to wrap it up, they go at the end of the day, and then they finish their thought. Stop doing that. It's like I said, it's almost like a tick. Like it's become a habit. So let's remove that from our vocabulary. One more final miscellaneous. This has only occurred in the last couple of years as far as I've been aware. But when young people say at the end of words, it's usually sort of in an exasperated, complaining way where you'll ask a young person and they'll go, no, or, you're asking them a question. They'll say, what? Like, why are you doing that? It's really, really annoying. Please stop doing that. Say the word and then stop at the end. We don't need the it's kind of a almost babyish kind of sound, and it's not babies doing it. I mean, these are all types of young people will put that last syllable on the end of the word that doesn't need to be there. The last category is maybe the most prominent. I don't know. They're all pretty even, but these are just abbreviations. Everything gets abbreviated, and it reminds me of Tom Haverford and from Parks and Rec and his abbreviations and silly words. Here's an example.
Can I get apps and zerts? Zerts are what I call desserts. Trays are entrees. I call sandwiches Sammy's, Sandoozles, or Adam Sandler's. Air conditioners are cool blasters with a Z. I don't know where that came from. I call cakes big old cookies. I call noodles long ass rice. Fried chicken is fry chicky chick. Chicken parm is chicky parm. Chicken cacciatore, chicky catch. I call eggs pre-birds or future birds. Root beer is super water. Tortillas are bean blankies. And I call forks food rakes.
Yeah, you can get as many zerts as you want.
Well, let's get in my Go-Go-Mobile car.
So the one that became really popular in the last year is people saying Riz, which just means charisma. We already have the word. Just say the word. You're not saving time by saying Riz. Same thing with sus. That took me a while to figure out. I was like, what does that mean? Why are people saying that? It just means suspicious or suspect. Again, we have the word. Just say it. There's no need to abbreviate. We know what it means. I literally just heard this one today. I didn't even know what this was. I read it in an article online. Someone said, sending T's and P's. And that meant, I was like, what is that? And I looked it up, thoughts and prayers, which is funny because it was being sarcastic. It was kind of making fun of this person. And if you haven't heard Anthony Jeselnik's comedic routine on thoughts and prayers, it's very R-rated, but you should check it out. But it deserves to be made fun of when people kind of use that in a casual way. But now we've abbreviated something that already is kind of an abbreviation that you care about them or that you think about them or something like that. Now it's just T's and P's. I only recently heard this one as well, where I read online, someone said, it's giving this. And they were talking about a song, and it was like an emo sounding song. And so they said, it's giving emo. Like someone was asked to describe what they thought of the song, and the person typed, it's giving emo. So I think what they meant was, it's giving emo vibes, which now we've trimmed all the way down to it's giving emo. So you're actually leaving some details out there. What is it giving? I've gathered that it's giving you a feeling, but again, you're abbreviating for no reason. I constantly hear people talking about their fit, meaning their outfit. Just say clothes, just say outfit. We know what it means. You don't need to shorten it. Check out my new fit. Just say outfit. It's fine. Oh man, in the sports world, when I hear anyone say natty or chip, I want to throw something through my television. Do not say that. If you're saying that, you don't know anything about sports because no true traditional athlete ever calls things a natty or a chip. Trust me. Swag, that word's been around a long time. Again, it's an abbreviation that we just don't need. What I have noticed recently is OG is now just meaning anything original, like the first version is now OG. I grew up in the era where OG was actually the abbreviation for original gangster. It came from the rap world. That's my era back then. And now it's like people don't know that that's where it came from, and they're just saying OG to abbreviate the word original without realizing, I don't think you know what OG actually meant. So make sure if you're going to use slang and abbreviations, you actually know where they came from. The word stan, that one, I haven't heard it in a while, so maybe that one's going away, but that one is a really annoying word. And maybe one of the most annoying of all, kind of back to sports, but now it's applied to everything, is constantly referring to things as the GOAT. That one did not emerge from Gen Z. That actually, from my knowledge anyway, came about from, I think, a journalist or a writer who came up with that abbreviation. And it's now gotten applied to everything. And it's very confusing for those of us who are a little older because the word GOAT used to have a very different meaning. In the past, the word GOAT was like the opposite of the hero. The hero is the one who hits the home run at the end or makes the big basket to win the game. The GOAT was the person who missed that final shot or who struck out with the bases loaded. And they were the GOAT because they got blamed for the loss. They were they're the loser. They're the person who caused the defeat. And they were called GOAT because often it has a very old meaning, which is they were referred to as the scapegoat. Like you're the one that everyone blames for something bad happening. And so for all of my adult life or all of my younger life, whenever I heard GOAT especially in a sports context, it was, oh, they're the one who we're blaming for the loss, And then we switch it to GOAT meaning the most positive thing, the greatest of all time. And now we're applying it to not just football players or basketball players. It's who's the GOAT band of all time? What are the GOAT sneakers of all time? Who's the GOAT chef? Or it's just everything's GOAT now. And I'm getting to where I read it in students' papers that they won't even capitalize the GOAT. They'll just say the word GOAT and think that everyone knows what that means. So it's become such a common part of our language that young people especially are even ignoring the fact that it's, those letters stand for other words. So we've got to come up with something else. Let's stop saying GOAT. It's a confusing word that used to have a very different meaning, and we're just applying it way too much. So there's my categories: abbreviations, miscellaneous that I couldn't really figure out where to put them, things that just absolutely make no sense, words and phrases we already have words and phrases for, and then finally those that are just plain vague that we don't know what you actually mean when you say that. Now, I know all this sounds very picky and that I'm just harping on young people, and I'm from the 80s and 90s where we had plenty of slang too. The difference though is that slang was a bit difficult to develop years ago because slang starts as an in-group, way of expressing yourself. You sort of adjust words based on who's going to hear them. and you create sort of a shorthand. You create a convenient, quicker, maybe more specialized way of speaking with people you're very familiar with. Obviously, you and your family or you and your best friends, it's very normal for you to have slang expressions or little winks and nods to certain things that you do within your close, intimate group. That's very normal. That used to only stay within that group, though. I grew up, again, in the 80s and 90s when the expansion of television occurred. Not that TV didn't exist before, but we had this boom in channels, and then the internet comes along, and so you start hearing many more words and phrases. And so now something that really only existed in Southern California, now someone says it on a TV show, and someone back in Ohio as a kid hears it, and now it becomes part of that kid's, lexicon. And so these words now spread way faster than they used to before the internet era, even, before the television era for sure. And now, because of social media, the spread of language among just regular people happens at hyper speed. It used to be, again, it would take something pretty dramatic for language spoken by regular people in one part of the country to get adopted by regular people in another part. It kind of took a celebrity or someone famous and speaking in a public platform to get that language to spread. Well, now anyone can speak on their platform whenever they want, and they can use whatever words they want. So these slang expressions get proliferated at hyperspeed, and it just gets very, very confusing because the words are changing constantly. Now, I, as someone who incorporates the ideas of capitalist economics in my field of English, I fully embrace the evolution of language. Language is it has an invisible hand quality to it, where there isn't, this group of legislators that sit up on high and tell everyone what words to use. They say, we're inventing these words this year and everyone will use them. No, it happens from the ground up. People just sort of invent things all the time. And some stick and they become words that we use for a very long time. And some fizzle out because we find that they weren't really that useful, or they were only helpful to this tiny group of people, or they were just too silly and everyone forgot about it. So I appreciate the evolution of language, and I understand how words help us understand the world, because the world is very complicated. It's infinitely complicated, in fact. And so we constantly need to update our ability to communicate about it with other people. So, again, I'm not bashing slang entirely. I grew up in an era with all sorts of weird slang. But again, they happened way slower, and a lot of them died off pretty quickly. They just, like many of these, they just weren't good words or expressions. And so they faded quickly. Or again, they started one place and then they sort of died before they ever reached a mass audience. Today, that's not the case. And so what's happening is things are getting ever more confusing, and too often we are creating a culture where people have a harder and harder time talking to one another, or writing things that everyone can read. We also used to have a society or an environment where there was a pretty clear delineation between your environments where you would use slang and then the rest of the world. So you kind of knew, when I was a kid, I knew that around my buddies or around my family or around anyone close or my teammates, you could use certain words and slangs and everyone would know what you meant. But I knew when I went to school and I talked to my teachers, or, later when I started applying for jobs, or, I'm at a restaurant and I'm talking to the waiter, or, anyone in any other environment, a store clerk, any other adult, in a business environment, I knew that my slang and my casual expressions needed to stay in my casual environments. Well, now young people are taking their casual language and disseminating it everywhere. And it's causing a lot of confusion because, other young people might know what you're saying, but anyone not 19 years old has no clue what you're talking about. And guess what? The majority of the world is not 19 years old. So in my classes, we talk a lot about trying to reach as large of an audience as you possibly can. Now, unless we're specifically doing a task where I want you to write for this specific group, then we can adjust our language to accommodate that rhetorical situation. But in general, when you're writing or speaking, you want to be able to communicate to as broad of an audience as possible so that if you have an important message that you want people to hear, they can hear it, they can understand it. And using slang too much, one, it confuses people, and two, I'm sorry to say this, it makes you look kind of dumb. And we don't want that for you, okay? It makes you look like you don't know proper, traditional words that we all know. So we don't want you to do that. Don't want you getting caught in a situation where you need to act professional and you use slang expressions, and those people that are maybe interviewing you for a job go, that person's not quite ready to be in our adult situation here, so we're not going to hire him. We don't want that. So ease up on the slang. Start taking just a second thought before you say something and go, is my audience going to actually understand what I'm about to say? Because if they're not, maybe I should pick a different expression. Again, we want young people to be successful, but being trendy and hip and trying to be cool by coming up with different words that just aren't necessary, it's usually not a way to become successful. So just a little piece of advice, and keep track of these words. And now whenever you hear them in your head, catch yourself before you say them out loud. And I promise we will all thank you for it. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Keep reading my articles on Substack. I appreciate you. And we'll see you next time.